Hello, welcome to another episode of the GymInformer podcast. I'm Chris Gilbert here with my co-founder of Classic Iron Fitness, Jason Goldman. We are your hosts for this episode, and our guest today is Tim Rexius of Rexisu Nutrition and owner of the Iron Heaven gyms in Nebraska. These were some amazing gyms, and before we get started, we're going to pause and show you some of the photos we took from those gyms. That way you have an idea of what we're talking about. All right, Tim. I got to be honest. When we went to your gym, we were kind of on a Iowa, Nebraska tour where we had started in Cedar Rapids and worked our way across. And by the time we got to your first gym in Stonegate that we went to, it was kind of like such a breath of fresh air. I mean, don't get me wrong, we like fitness centers. We have a true appreciation for powerlifting gyms, but we're bodybuilding gym guys and we love bodybuilding gyms. And your gym was the first bodybuilding gym we had seen on our way across Iowa and into Nebraska. So like it was a huge breath of fresh air and we loved the gym. And so, and now you have three. So to start, could you kind of give us a little like how it started? And like, I know you have this nutrition company, and how'd you get into the gym ownership? That was at first, was a nutrition company first? And how'd you go from one gym to three gyms and that kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. So I started Rexisu Nutrition Stores in 2010, and we've been expanding quite well for at that till 2016, 2017. Have gone into 5 states with the franchises, and we've expanded to 11 now. But back then, I was actually in prep for a bodybuilding show, in 2016, 2017. So honestly, what happened was I got kicked out of, we'll call them Globo Gym here in Omaha, 2 weeks before my show because I was intimidating other guests. Yeah, which is not true because I talk as much as I lift because I'm a salesman, for crying out loud. It was more or less I was going up into that gym. I have 6 children, so I would wait till they went to bed and I would go back to the local gym and do my posing practice in their upstairs classroom when no one's even there. And that gym wanted to sell supplements. I'm kind of the supplement king. So that's really why they kicked me out. And my wife and I had talked about opening a gym for years. In fact, our first date was a gym session where we're the definition of a meathead couple. I mean, you can't be any more meathead than my wife and I. And she's also a fitness competitor, a figure competitor. And so we went to the show in LA and I won the show. And it was 37, which was awesome because the next oldest competitor was 24. So I take some pride in that. And then the day after the show, we went to Kratos Gym, which is now since closed, but it was in East Los Angeles with Ed Koo, who at that time owned Iron Rebel powerlifting equipment. And he was coaching an employee of mine that had helped me prep for the show, Nick Langer. And we go to the gym, really cool kind of vibe, warehouse style. We didn't have anything like that in Omaha. And my wife kept coming up to me every 5 minutes, being like, we should open a gym like this. And I'm like, I don't know. They're expensive. And then Nick, every other minute would be like, dude, we should open a gym like this. And so between LAX and Omaha, those two chirping in my ears, we signed a lease a week later on a 6,000 square foot spot for Iron Heaven Gym before we even had financing. More or less because I was so annoyed at Globo Gym for kicking me out. And originally it was just to be a gym because we'd have pro bodybuilders come in for Rexius, right, to do samplings or signings, and there really wasn't a gym around there that we could really have them go to that worked well with us, that had enough weight. And then Nick, being an aspiring bodybuilder himself, you can call him Baby Rhino for a reason. He looks like a rhino. I mean, 5'8" on a good day and 260. I mean, he's a big boy.
Yeah, no doubt.
Good place to train. And so fast forward, we were able to finally get the financing, and we were going to have a member cap. It's just going to be for bodybuilders, and that's it. And it was a little slow at start, but within about 9 months, we had capacity. And I think it wasn't just with the members, but we kept finding cooler and cooler stuff that we wanted to get, just because the great thing about having a business partner like Nick and Danny, that's Nick and his wife, and my wife and myself, is that we are all big fans of just lifting. And the problem, my wife would find a new, piece of booty equipment, and Nick would find a new, you know, deadlift bar platform he wanted. Then I'd find, something for tall guys, like, a standing side lateral or something cool I wanted. And all of a sudden we just didn't have enough room. So we opened the second gym only a year later in 2018 on Chandler Road. My next door neighbor owns the building. Had been empty for 10 years. Got that one rolling in November 2018. Within 90 days, that one has more members than the first gym does. And I'm like, oh God. And it was cooler than the first one. Well, then I found out my neighbor at Stonegate, then the neighbor next to had his 6,000 square foot bay, they were closing. So I kind of went for broke, asked for forgiveness over permission, and signed a lease immediately to double the size of the gym. And honestly, through COVID, anybody's feelings, this, that way, or another's inconsequential. But we met as a group and said, we're not going to close. I'm not closing. The gym is more than just about looking good and lifting weights. I mean, it's therapy. It's religion for people. It's overcoming depression, anxiety, loss, whatever, addiction, which made it, as many times as I got canceled, it also made me immensely popular. And next thing you know, that same Globo gym had called us in 37 times to the police department and the county sheriffs. So I met the county sheriffs and the police department 37 times, and 37 times they signed up for a membership. So now I've got the entire police department, sheriff's department, and the military base training at our gyms, which made us force it. We ran out of key fobs, which were made in China during COVID. So we went to a barcode system so people can buy a membership 24 hours a day using their phone. And so here we are at capacity again. And then we got the opportunity to buy out the Atlanta Falcons pro training facility. They had doubled equipment during COVID to show the media they were social distancing. And now they wanted to sell it, but they didn't want to sell locally. So we put in a bid and we won. So we drove 4 35-foot Penske trucks full of brand new Atlanta Falcons gym equipment to Omaha, Nebraska without a place to put it. And my realtor happens to live a block away from a building. He's like, hey, I really would like a gym in the Gretna suburb. And we made a deal. And so in 2021, we opened the third location. And then as things progressed, the little warehouse I had in the back of the Stonegate original gym wasn't big enough for Rexisu, VHI, OPP companies I own. So we put a 4,000 square foot legroom in the Stonegate, thinking that it'll be cool, but not everyone's going to respect it. Well, we've gone up 300% since then. Wow. So basically, I just made a deal with the landlord, and in 60 days, that location will go from 13,000 square feet to 33,000 square feet. We're taking the whole building and the mezzanine second levels on the other side to add in a gym that the likes of this area has never even seen before.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Like I know Jay, he's out in the Midwest, so I'm sure he'll be like chomping at the bit to get back out there as soon as you get that done. One of the things we wanted to talk to you about, like, because I mentioned it was a breath of fresh air. Like, one of the things that I thought was so cool is you had a really good mix of old school equipment and new school equipment. Like, we got to use some Arsenal, some Rogers strength, but there was also some old school Nautilus and stuff like that in there. So how do you really choose, like, what's going into your gyms?
Honestly, some of the older school stuff was stuff that I grew up with. And, I was training in the old gym in Norfolk, Nebraska, or the high school gym, then the college gym. And I travel a lot for Rexisu stores. And Nick, my business partner, does a lot of coaching. He travels. So we always go to off the wall gyms in whatever city or state we're in. If we find a piece that we like, we take pictures of it and we go find it. Finding a Nautilus pullover machine, nobody has them anymore. I love that thing.
Sure.
I'm tall. I want it. And honestly, a lot of gyms don't have it. And so we found some of those. And then Nick really stays up with, Arsenal and Atlanta Strength and Rogers, and we're finding different pieces. And we want to be different. We want to give an environment that, people can really find a piece of equipment that's going to make them move that muscle in a way that you can't get at one of these strip mall, $10 a month gyms. And it's, for us, it's fun because you guys know this. You get to a gym and you got that piece of equipment that really works your chest or really works your delts. And And if you ever leave that gym, it's like you can never get that same feeling again. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what we wanted to provide, And back when I came up training in the 90s, like there were really good gyms had a vertical leg press. And they had a sissy squat platform, and nobody does that anymore. So we wanted to make sure that we had that spot, and just like that, and like, okay, we want real iron plates, no rubber, anything. I want to
Nice.
hear the clanking. It's like the anti-lunk alarm is iron heaven. Like
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
want to hear, clang and bang, and that's for us. And we found that as we went to, like, what pieces of equipment can handle some of these bigger guys, these pro athletes, and then lifting some heavy weight. I want to make sure that they, stuff's going to break. I get that. And our claim to fame is nothing's broke longer than 24 hours. We'll weld our own pieces. And for us, it's more or less just kind of staying up on things and, traveling to a lot of these conferences, Olympias and GymCon and CoachingCon. I get to test out a lot of equipment, and we have new Panada equipment coming from Italy for the expansion, just because they have some shoulder pieces that you just can't mimic anywhere else. And for me, it's and Nick and my wife, it's a simple obsession with new gym equipment. I'm a kid in a candy store, and I'm like, I gotta have it. And my wife and Nick's wife bringing the female aspect, that there's certain pieces of equipment that they want, that they feel comfortable on. And it's nice that, I'm 5-6 inches taller than Nick. So my needs for a gym piece are going to be different than Nick's. So you're going to see a standing calf machine and a donkey calf machine. And because, well, I'm tall, so I need to make sure those calves are popping. Nick is genetically blessed on the lower part because there's not as much room there.
Sure.
So he doesn't see the need for it. But that's where I think having like-minded people with different body structures really allows us to find some really unique stuff. And some of it, just came from the members themselves. When we first 2-3 years we were open, we had a member suggestion board. Like, what are the guys and gals in our gym? What do they want? And they would kind of vote on it. And we would buy whatever kind of bar or machine that they wanted. It's like the monolift we got. We had this young gentleman who was, this kid went on to break records, and he moved back to Detroit. But, I came in one day and I had a Texas squat bar, brand new, completely bent. And I put up some post on Instagram being like, who bent my new bar? And this guy walks in. He's a mammoth. 340 pounds, 6'5". He walks in, really respectful kid. He's like, Mr. Rexisu, it was me. Hangs his head. I go, what'd you do? He goes, well, I was in the rack, and I banded, what it's like to band 700 pounds just to make it a little harder. I'm like, I don't know what that's like at all, actually. He goes, well, the whole rack came off the ground, so he dropped the bar. So I sent a video to John Meadows, God rest his soul, and as a friend of mine, I said, look at this kid. And I said, do you know anybody who's got a monolift? He's like, I do. And so we got that in for him and a few of these guys who want to take it to the next level. Like, I don't power lift, but do I think it's impressive? Absolutely. My joints hate me if I try to power lift, but if they're going to do it, let's do it. Let's do it right. And I think that's part of the customer service aspect for us. Is we want everyone to find their own piece of greatness. That's our motto. And if that's CrossFit, cool, let's put some CrossFit. If that's strongman, cool, I just got Atlas stones and we're building a platform for them. I love watching World's Strongest Man. I have no desire to do it, but I just like seeing athletes push themselves, and we got to make sure we have the equipment to make it next level, because that's what, for us is fun. And, there's sometimes pieces we bought were like, this is going to be great, and then it's not. So that's where Facebook Marketplace, you sell it and you get something new. It's not bad. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just want you mentioned the member suggestion, the board. I remember when we were in the Chandler location, we saw a whiteboard with member suggestions on it, and we were both like, we both talked about it. We're like, that's an owner who cares about the members.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's the thing is, like, what do you need to push yourself, and what's going to make you, and guys would come up to me, older than me, some younger than me, man, back at my gym in my home state, they had this calf machine, or they had this bicep machine. And, some people are like, I want a single leg curl, but I like this old one, the Paramount that you bent. I'm like, cool, I'll get one. And sure as heck, I found one. And because I'm like, oh, I remember that. I like that too. And I don't think the age or beauty of the machine makes a difference to most people who are there for the purity of the training. They want something that works. And For me, that's just fun. And, my addiction to attachments for my cable machine is legendary. I've got, you've seen it in the gym. I've got so many, and I even tried to outline them on the wall because I'm so OCD. So every morning I go in and train at 5 a.m. I put everything back in its spot. And my wife goes, "Well, if we don't have any more spots, why do you keep buying attachments?" I'm like, "Because it's new, and I gotta have it." So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. One of the best attachments I've ever used in a gym was just simply some chains that a guy had drilled holes through a baseball, connected the chains to it, and then put it on the cable attachment. I'm like, that's one of the best things I've ever used.
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
where do I get one of those? He's like, I made it. I'm like, can you make me one? Like, because that
Well,
was pretty much.
it's funny to us. Like our first set of dumbbells we bought from Ivanka, we went from 2.5 pound dumbbells to 185s. And we got to the point where some of our members had grown as they were training that 185s wasn't enough. I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome.
Wow.
So we picked it up to 200s. Nobody's really maxing out past that, thank God, because the Ivanka was a little stressed out when I told him to make me 200-pound dumbbells. But I was like, but how cool it looks, and it's just fun for me that I want to get to the point where there's like no one is at a point where they're maxing out all the equipment. You know what I mean? Like that happened to me in some of the gyms, especially when I was training for the NFL back in my 20s, where there'd be some equipment where I'm maxed out the whole deck and I'm having to do supersets or banded movements just to get the training in. And I wasn't really able to go to my full potential if I can't train to my potential. So I don't know. We get to be a page in every one of these members' storybooks about how they got to do that. And I think that's awesome.
Well, and it sounds like, Tim, based on you doing this, you've built a pretty strong community there. They're not just members of the gym. That is their gym because it's they're a part of that. And yeah, we really appreciate that. So.
Well, it's funny, like I've had people that come up to me, just professionals in Omaha, because I'm the president of the Chamber of Commerce for one of the smaller communities here. And I get to talk to a lot of guys who aren't necessarily just guys who like to hit the gym a little bit. And one guy, I left my wallet in a locker for 3 days. It came back and it's still there, or it was turned into the counter and there's nothing missing. I'm like, I go, well, one, they know they have active owners who are in these gyms every day. And then two, it's family run, and people respect that. And I think that that's been probably the greatest eye-opening surprise of getting into this, that because I've heard horror stories in the past, but that our members, it's their gym. It's theirs, and they police each other. And even when you get to a membership level like ours, you're in several thousand members, but you get a 90% usage rate. The exact opposite of Planet Fitness trying to only have a 6% usage rate. Everyone has a membership in my gym. I want to use it, and I want them to feel safe. And it's a place that I also feel safe enough to send my teenage daughters to go train at. They're going to be respected, that they're going to be safe, and that if they have a problem, that one of the other guys there is going to help them out. That they all, I have 200 other dads in that gym at that point in time. They're there to make sure that they're safe and they're doing it right.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. That's one of the reasons we started doing this was, just to promote locally owned gyms and let people know how awesome they are and that they can be a part of that sort of community. So. It's awesome.
Omaha's got a phenomenal bodybuilding community. We have a great powerlifting community. CrossFit's big here. We have a couple guys like Brian Benzel, who've been on World's Strongest Man. He trains in the gym, and he's donating a bunch of weight-filled kegs and a bunch of other stuff for strongman. It's a sport, so we're making a section in the gym expansion for that. And I'm like, if you want to be an athlete, if you want to push yourself, no matter what age you are, I want you to do it in my gym. Because that's a place where it's encouraged, and we even did a free boot camp outside the gym. Outside, we actually rolled turf outside during the summer just to get some other people who maybe hadn't been in the gym in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, who maybe got burned by another gym and some sort of contract, and like, hey, come here, we'll teach it for free. And we had like 10 veterans. We had fire department people in their 50s who hadn't been training in years, or police department folks, and it was just awesome to see. And they're like, they had this impression of gyms that a bunch of meatheads walking around doing this. Find out that those meatheads want you there. They know that improves the gym. It improves the health of the community, and They're there to help. That's my wife's mission with training women is, to walk them up, introduce them to the big guys in the gym who are super polite and hospitable, and they're glad you're there. And that's for us. It's been so awesome to see how that has transformed in the metro. And we want to make sure that people realize that there's a lot of great things happening in Omaha, and watching people drive from an hour and a half, 2 hours away to use a posing room. We're giving free posing classes for bodybuilders on the weekends.
Oh, wow.
Just so they have an avenue to learn how to do it and do it correctly. So.
Well, hey, switching gears, I want to ask you this. I love the name that you used. Is there a story behind that? How'd you come up with that?
Nick. That is purely Nick.
Okay.
You give Nick enough time with his ADHD, he'll come up with something. And he's like, well, we were thinking about names, and he's like, let me really roll on this one. And he came back, and we wanted that transformation of turning yourself from a normal human into something that looks like it's sculpted, right? You look like you came into a machine, Captain America, you went into a machine, a normal human, came out Captain America. That was kind of our theme. And he goes, Iron Heaven. He goes, I want to see, Hercules, Wonder Woman, just the stuff we grew up with. I think we're all probably around the same age.
Yeah.
What were the cartoons when we were kids? He-Man, right? Everybody's just dieseled out. And, I still blame Pumping Iron, the movie, for my obsession with bodybuilding and supplements. And, that was where we had a local artist actually paint that Iron Heaven mural on the wall by hand. And it was a local bodybuilder that Nick had coached who was like, I'm an artist. And he drew that by hand. That's our logo, actually. And so that was kind of our original name was it's our heaven and it's our haven. Like, that's where we go to, for me, I'm very much faith-filled man, but I kind of felt myself closer to my faith ever than when I'm pushing weight and pushing my body to the extreme. And so it just made a lot of sense. And it's been caught on ever since then. So then my buddy Derek, who I went to college with, I gave him like an hour, and he designed the wings and the whole kind of logo. Just kind of felt like it was meant to be.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we noticed in both the Stonegate and the Chandler gym, it's got kind of an old school feel. It's not a ton of stuff on the walls. It's like concrete floors, like very old school. Was that purposeful? Is that how you guys planned it?
100%. We really looked at it where we want that warehouse feel, so you don't feel like you're closed in on. The high ceilings really help. Financially, from a business aspect, there's other reasons for doing that. From a real estate tax perspective, it does actually make your costs lower, but just the way things are zoned. But that warehouse feel, because I think a lot of people, if you really go back to like, when do they feel like they were in the best shape of their life? A lot of guys, it's high school or college. If they played sports, they're in that gym, that dungeon, the concrete, and that's where they push their body. Nothing flashy, no BS. That's when they felt like they were really, it was just them and the weights, and they pushed it. I feel like the more boutique-ish a gym gets, the more distracted you are. Not saying you can't have some amenities, some TV, some sports playing, nothing wrong with that, but we wanted to make sure that where the weights were was a place for work, and that's what's to get done. And we wanted to maintain that, because that was my fondest memories of training was in concrete block wall, and if there's music playing, it was rock or it was rap, and it was hard. It wasn't some easy top 40 listening ABBA, Kenny G on the sweet alto saxophone garbage. I wanted to hit the weights. I wanted some AC/DC, and I wanted to sling it around. And so that was where I know, like, when I'm in prep or I'm in training and I'm trying to push my body to the extreme, that's what I wanted. And I think the environment, people have even said this to us, like, I find myself pushing way harder than I ever thought I would have in our gyms. And that means, and that's, I think it's got a lot to do with the, what we do. And the only really huge thing we put on the wall is the biggest American flag I can find. Because we're red, white, and blue. We feel damn blessed to be in this country and have these opportunities to do this. So we are obviously huge supporters of our military. So they bring back flags from different units, and we hang those. But other than that, that's pretty much it. We own supplement companies, and you don't see a banner on the wall of even our brands. It's not a race. This isn't a NASCAR where I'm trying to advertise everything. This is a gym, and we want to make sure you stay true to that mentality.
Sure.
Yeah, that was awesome, man. We appreciated that old school feel, and it
Yeah.
definitely felt like a place you could go in there and just really like crush it. So,
Oh yeah,
thanks.
that's my oldest son is 18. He actually works the desk at Stonegate. He was probably working when you guys were there, more than likely. And so he's graduating early. He wants to do his first show, and he brought us about a month ago. He's put on 90 pounds in 2 years. Got my genetics,
Wow.
and he's just been hitting it. And what people don't know about this kid is he's actually was born with a prenatal stroke, so he's half handicapped. Drives an electric accelerator, and he was in high school weightlifting class. He was a sophomore, couldn't bench the bar. He goes, how bad it sucks to be a Rexisu. You own the gyms, you own the brands. I can't bench the bar. I'm like, well, start training. So one of our trainers started training him at the gym, and he went from 135 to 220 in a year. And now he wants to do his first show, and he's like, Dad, hey, you should compete with me. I'm like, oh man, I'm retired. He's like, wow, get in your 40s and you turn weak. I'm like, oh. So I'm in prep for my first show in 7 years because I can't. I raised him right, and how many chances am I going to get to do a show with my kid? Like that's
exactly. That's a one-time. Once in an opportunity. Yeah.
And he's got way more motivation for cardio than I do. So I'm going to have to really pull it out of the way. I love the lift, but cardio is definitely not my strong.
Not your thing, yeah.
No, I need to, but for us, that's just going to be fun. And Nick's in prep for doing North Americans again this next year. So you're my business partner is trying to compete at the top level, and he himself is a walking testament to dedication and pushing. And I think people are like, they look at him when training in the gym, like he'll never. I mean, he pushes himself harder than any client he trains. And so I think just the way that we all live our lives is represent like we walk the walk that we talk. So
yeah, that's awesome. And we also appreciated the way that the gym was organized. Everything was by body part. I know that was purposeful. Just like most of the really good bodybuilding gyms are. Did you have any other questions, Jay? I mean, I was.
No, not at this time. I mean, I love the gyms. When he told me which gyms we were going to be doing this on, I didn't really remember until I took a look at the photos, and it all came back to me. So yeah, I'm excited for your expansion. So
in we're gonna have a back only room, a leg only room. We have to expand the leg only room because everyone likes us so much. We'll add in 4 more racks and platforms, and a few other leg pieces, booty builders, a few other things and then another 8-stack cable station dumbbells. But obviously we're gonna add in 3,000 square feet of turf on the new side with strongman, CrossFit, boxing, and powerlifting is getting its own section. They're going to geek out because we're going to chain link fence this. It's going to be the dog pound. We're going to let them just do as much. Nice. Oh yeah, why not? These guys, we had a deadlifts and zombies thing for Halloween where they all dress. These guys love it. They're all great members, and then cardio is going to overlook the top on the mezzanine over on top of everything, and we're adding in probably about a 400 square foot sauna. For the gyms, another locker room setup, tanning, massage therapy, cold plunge, in-house chiropractic, in-house physical therapist, upstairs classroom for meetings and teaching. Like, when we teach classes, second posing room because people like it so much. There's usually a line. Sure. I call the posing room Selfie Central, which is fine. So I just put hashtag Iron Heaven Gym on the mirror, so at least we get some press for it. Nice. But yeah, it's we're even thinking about putting a TRT clinic in at the end, just a hormone therapy clinic. So we have the space, and actually one of our guys, and I won't announce his name, but my barber is an avid bodybuilder, the biggest barber you've ever seen in your life. I'm like, you should open a barber shop in the end. I got all these little offices, and I think I almost have them there. Because look good, feel good, man. You got to go get cut and get a clean cut, and it's the one-stop shop. Right? So as soon as it's open, I'll invite you guys out. I'd love to have you and check out the new pics.
Yeah. What we like to finish up with each one of our episodes is just asking each gym owner, like, is there any advice that you would want to give to anyone else that you've learned over your years of owning the gym? Anybody else interested in starting a gym, or somebody who just started a gym, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, I do a lot of business coaching across the United States, and I have some gym owners that are clients and store owners and brands. Having the gym as your primary initial source of income is very hard to do. And so we didn't take a dime out of the gyms for the first 3.5 years, not one, because it's hard to build a gym. you need to build the culture, and to build that culture and to make that thing happen, it takes several years. And so the last thing you want to do is nickel and dime the gym members because you got to make your mortgage or your house payment or your kid needs braces. So make sure there's another source of income to make sure that gym has time to build that clientele. It's going to take a while for people at an office building, right, to see what one of our members turns their body into. And that's a great way to be like, hey, have you seen Tom? He's looking jacked. Where is he training? That may take a year, you know?
Right.
And so having another source of income is a huge deal. And how we were able to make this thing work. Nick made his entire living solely off training clients and coaching bodybuilders. Mine came from Rexisu. So for Iron Heaven, if we needed to go into the red to expand and get new equipment, it kept us very fluid. I find a lot of the gym owners that I coach, on the business aspect, they've got a mortgage and they've got a car payment and they've got these things. And so they won't make certain investments in the gym that are necessary because their personal finances require XYZ amount of income. So, if you're going to start a new gym, for 3 years, get your primary source of income for your family. And you need to have that. It needs to come from another source. So you don't, and a lot of the gyms where we bought equipment out of, that had closed down, that's usually the case. It's not that the gym wasn't making money. It wasn't making enough money for their entire personal financial situation. And I think that that's the biggest piece of advice I can get, whether that's coaching or running boot camps or, whatever other level of business. And we all want to jump into a gym ownership and be 100% gym all day long. Problem is it takes a while to build that culture. So let it do its course.
That's a great piece of advice, Tim. I'm sure somebody watching this is going to get something out of that. So we appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm honored, and I can't wait to have you guys back out.
All right. Be good, sir. Take care.
You too.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more great content.